Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk about it with R.C. Blakes. Let's talk about it.
This is really geared towards brothers, towards men, because I'm finding that we are running into a lot of relational problems because as men, as good men, we yet don't really know how to deal or how to love a generation of broken women. We don't know how to love women who have been emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes even physically depleted, but yet she has a desire to be loved. But she comes with the pain, she comes with the wounds of a negative history. And because that's her reality, because that's her truth, she does not function like a typical woman or a woman who's not had those experiences. And to love her requires a certain wisdom and a certain patience, and it requires a certain understanding of who she is and why she is who she is and the way she is. If you don't love her enough to learn her, to be patient with her, you don't love her enough. Every man should discern, do some analysis, pay attention to figure out if this woman is broken or not. Because if she is broken and you're not mature or wise enough to love her properly, you will only do even greater damage. And I speak this out of personal experience. I'm married to a broken woman, and it just so happens it wasn't that I necessarily was wise enough to know what I was getting into. I didn't, but I loved her enough to work my way through it, and I loved her enough to learn who she is, who she was, and also to discern who she could be. But doesn't that mean she's not? Not really, because love is the healing agent for a broken heart. But it has to be a person that's wise enough and mature enough and intentional enough to love her back to health. When you're broken emotionally, what you need more than anything is somebody that will love you unconditionally, but someone who would know how to love you, you know. But in John chapter 4, verses 5 through 29, there you find Jesus having this discussion, this conversation with this woman at a well. And the interesting thing is that, watch this, now you got to hear this, and this is for brothers, so though it's mostly women on here, at some point I need you to share this with brothers, because they need to hear this. I think they'll glean something from it, you know. The first thing you notice when you read that story, to love a woman, period, has to be intentional, but to love a broken woman has to be even more intentional. But the first thing you notice when you read that block of verses and you read that story of Jesus' encounter with the woman at the well is that for the first time, I don't know, it may actually be the only time, you find Jesus after he chooses his disciples. This is the first time you find him alone without any of them. Not Peter, not James, not John, none of the other 9. He's by himself. You don't find Jesus typically by himself. He's always with his boys, typically. But he said, when you read it, he says, I have need to go through Samaria. So he intentionally went out of his way to go through Samaria, and then he hangs out by this well because he knew he was going to meet this woman, I assume. But the first thing I glean from that is this. To love a broken woman, a man must first be willing to leave his boys. Many times we fail in properly loving the women in our lives. Though they are broken, they love us with all of their hearts, and we fail them because we don't grow up enough to know when to leave our boys. There are many brothers that may see this either on Periscope, Facebook, or YouTube, who are failing their wives, failing the women in their lives, because you don't know when it's time to leave your boys. Now, here's the interesting thing. When you read the story, read it in your leisure. Read it in your leisure. Here's the interesting thing. When you get into the story, you find that this woman had had relationship after relationship after relationship, and they clearly all failed. Jesus told her, the man you with now is not yours. You've had 5 different men, and the one you got now is not yours. But yet this woman, when he meets her, she's at this well. Watch this now. This is powerful. She's at this well. She's clearly been disappointed by men. But you find her at this well drawing water, and then she's trying to serve Jesus some water, who's a man. Though she had been broken, and clearly men were part of the breaking process, there was still something in her that wanted to serve. Some of the most beautiful women you will ever meet are women that have been broken. A lot of times, men write women off that have had traumatic histories. But at their core, many times, they are the greatest servants. With all of the pain this woman was in, she still had a heart to serve. But back to my main point. He left his boys. He said, I have need to go through Samaria, and he left his boys. A man has to be mature enough to know when it's time to leave his boys. You have to be mature enough to know when it's time to leave your boys. Number 2, he leaves his boys, and then he goes to this well, and he stands by this well. And again, he's by himself for the first time. Watch this. And then this woman comes up, and for the first time, I'm sure it's the first time, if not the only time, Jesus has a one-on-one conversation with this woman, and nobody else is around, which is indicative of what? He gave her quality time. He gave her time where she did not have to share him with anybody else. She had his undivided attention. A broken woman has to feel that she is the priority. Her self-esteem has been battered and bruised and broken, and she has to have a man that makes her feel like she is the priority. For the first time, we see Jesus in a one-on-one conversation with somebody, and nobody else is around. The greatest thing a man can give a woman is his time. Time in the economy of a woman is greater than money. Now, you ought to have some money, and you ought to give her some money. But there's nothing that will replace giving her time. There are women, there are brothers that are watching this whose women struggle with low self-esteem. She's jealous. She comes up with, she imagines a whole lot of stuff. And the reason she's not worked her way through this many times is because, number one, your life is preoccupied with your boys. Number two, you've never really gone out of your way to give her quality time, uninterrupted, not shared by anyone else. Most men, if you really stop and think about when's the last time I've given my girlfriend, my wife, whatever it may be, the kind of time that she has to share me with no one. This is even true in terms of raising your daughters. You know, if you have more than one daughter, you can't, it's cool to bring all of them out together, but you got to learn to give each of your daughters time that is not shared with anybody else, not even their mama. How much more should you do this for the woman in your life? If you just learn to break away from your boys, and if you learn to give your woman time, quality time. Jesus is standing by this well, and he's standing there waiting for this woman clearly, and he's having this conversation with her. And it's just he and her. She doesn't even know what's going on. See, you can bring healing to your woman's heart, and she not even realize what's happening. She'll just wake up one day and realize it don't hurt no more. All right. The third thing I notice in I was just reading this. He left his boys to go meet her. He gave her quality time. And then watch this. When he gets there and he's standing by this well, check this out. Look what he does. He starts to have a deep conversation with her. He just has a conversation with her. He starts a conversation. And the thing I love about it is this. Jesus did not seek to meet her in some enclosed private space. He met her outside, which meant what? He met her in a safe place. He met her in an innocent zone where his intentions were clearly pure. When you're dealing with a broken woman, you have to make certain that you create an environment that she feels safe in, where she can discern that your intentions towards her are pure and innocent. All he does is he goes, he waits, and then he talks. Now, as simple as that sounds, most of the time, we as brothers, we struggle with talking. Which is really, really kind of sad, because as I was teaching in the father-daughter talk in Chicago, conversation is the cleanser of the soul. Conversation, when the soul is polluted and broken, conversation, I may be wording it differently, but conversation is the cleanser of the soul. It is in conversation that wounds are healed and breaks are mended, and things that need to come out, toxins that need to be extracted are extracted, and balm that needs to be applied is applied. It's in conversation. Most of the time, we as husbands or significant others in the lives of women, we cannot fulfill our role in their lives to bring healing, husband, house band. We cannot bring things together because we don't want to talk. We don't want to talk. We don't want to have the deep conversations. We want to rush through the conversation. We don't want to listen. And if there's anything women need conversation. They need us to talk. I was I think it was Pastor Howard. Actually, it was Pastor Howard Harding in father-daughter talk this weekend, where he was talking about how and it just came to me as I was listening to him, how Satan talked to Eve, and Eve went back and she acted on what Satan said to her. Now, I didn't get a chance to go back and read Genesis, but I don't think, and you all check it out to make certain I'm right. I'm not saying I am right, but I think I'm right. When you look at the account between Adam and Eve, after God creates Eve and brings her and gives her to Adam, I don't think we read where Adam has any conversation with her necessarily. And then we see, Eve going off and then Satan having this conversation with her. And then she comes back and then she talks Adam into doing what Satan talked her into. And as I was listening to that and thinking it through, a woman is designed in the life of a man to produce the vision of the one that's talking to her. When a man is not getting out of his woman what he thinks he should be getting out of her, it is more so a reflection on his not having made the deposit, because a woman can only reproduce what a man gives her. If a man does not seed it, she cannot birth it. And it is in conversation that a man can bring healing to his woman's soul. It's in conversation that a man can give life to or give seed to his woman's greatest potential. But when we don't take time to have the conversation, we deprive them of the healing they need, and we deprive ourselves of the greater version of our own woman. He casts the vision, she runs with it. She's the Bible called Eve, the mother of all living. A man has vision, he has to communicate it, and the woman has the capacity, most men don't understand that, to bring that thing to pass, but if he's not talking to her. Jesus has this, he has quality, gives a quality time, but then he has a deep conversation. Now watch this. And it's fourth and final point. I'm done. Read this now. Read this. This is John 4, 5 through 29. Wow. This is some deep stuff, man. I'm going to really develop this lesson. Number 4, in the conversation, Jesus asked the woman a question, and he's asking her questions so he can get her to open the door to her soul, to the painful parts of her life. And he says, go get your husband. She says, I ain't got none. He said, yeah, no, you've had 5. The one you got now is not yours. And then Jesus opens up that part of her life, and he exposes it that he might dispose of it. Point number 4, when you're loving a broken woman, you have to discern what's beneath the surface. Jesus did not just look at her and talk with her based on the surface, but Jesus got his conversation went beneath the surface. He was a man that was capable of discerning what was beneath the layers. See, today that's extremely important, because we have, in this day and age, we have what I call mascara therapy, where women try to paint away the pain. So they've painted on the smiley face. But beneath that thing is a heart that is broken and torn and tattered. And she has to have a man that can open her up and deal with the stuff that's beneath the surface. Watch this, as Jesus did, in a non-judgmental, loving, accepting way. But now notice, Jesus could not deal with her painful issues until he had left his boys, gave her quality time, and started having conversation. He made her know with those 3 acts that she was important and she was his priority. He had all of this. He did all of this in a public, safe place so she felt secure. And then he was able to open her heart and deal with things that she had probably talked to no one else about before. And he goes beneath the surface. You cannot heal a woman if you cannot see spiritually. You got to be able to see beneath the surface. And then Jesus loves her. He accepts her. He makes her know that, watch this, this is powerful. He makes her know that he knows the truth about her, even though she's tried to cover it up, and he loves and accepts her anyway. And then the Bible says she came there with those water pots, but she leaves the water pots at the well, and she runs into the city, and she tells the men in the city, come see a man. My God, here's my point in that. When you as a man love your woman back to health, she will esteem you and honor you to such a degree. See, like we have a lot of conversation, we have a lot of talk about submission, the woman submitting to the man, and brothers will preach about, these women need to submit and all that kind of thing. The reality is this: when a man loves a woman completely and fully and properly, submission is a natural response to having been loved right. I don't know if y'all heard what I just said. Uncover me, I missed it. When a woman has been loved completely and entirely by man, submission is what happens naturally. Nobody has to preach her into it. Nobody has to twist her arm. Oh, I love you. I'm so honored. Thank you. Nobody got to make her. No, you can't find nowhere in Scripture where it says that somebody should make a woman submit to a man. Submission happens when the man loves the woman completely and entirely, when the man makes the woman his priority, when the man creates a safe environment for the woman, when the man listens to the woman and the man can discern the woman's heart. Submission is what happens naturally. If you love her, she will follow you to the moon. If not, she won't follow you to the corner. That's true. So when we start dealing with, loving broken women, we have to do it intentionally. And I was just thinking about this, y'all. I was sitting here and wasn't ready to go to sleep, and I was just thinking about this. And I heard so many stories this weekend in Chicago, and so many women are broken. They're not all broke. Some of them are extremely educated and have great sums of monies and all of that, but they're yet broken. And as I sat there and I listened and I looked and I had conversations with so many of them, maybe even so many of you, because some may be on here tonight, I went back to my room and I thought, we got to begin to teach the brothers how to love the sisters, because the brothers don't know. The brothers don't know. The brothers are failing. Somebody made us believe that loving the woman is performing sexually. It's not it. It's not it. So that's my little thoughts for the night, y'all. Who's on here with me tonight? Anybody on with me this late at night for the first time? If you are, just kind of indicate and let me know where you're from. Yeah, they think it's a weakness. Anybody on with me for the first time? First time. Handcuffed to history, absolutely. First I am. Where y'all from? Where's everybody from? Yes, first time. Thank you for sharing with us tonight. Sherry from California, Indiana. First time Greensboro, North Carolina. Wow, y'all from everywhere. Houston, Florida, Virginia, Maryland, Kansas. Wow, God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you for tuning into my little thing tonight. I was just feeling inspired to talk for a few minutes. I live in Tallahassee, Florida, but I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. God bless you. Kuwait. Is that the Kuwait, like the Kuwait? Naptown, Grayson, Georgia, Detroit. Welcome, everyone. God bless you. Listen, thank you for being on with me tonight. And just know we love you, and I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you that God will just do something supernatural in your lives. From the UK, I'm trying to get to the UK. And for those of you that are praying for, the right man, don't become so cynical that you give up on love, because God will give you. He will send the right person into your life. Just learn to love God, learn to love yourself, fall in love with your future, maximize your potential, and just keep your heart open. God will send the right person into your life. Yeah, I was talking to one dear sister there at Father-Daughter Talk Chicago, and she was saying she's in her late 50s. She's a little older than me. She's in her late 50s. And she was saying she and her boyfriend, maybe on here tonight, were listening to me. And I forget what I was talking about, but it has something to do with marriage. And she blames me because now they're engaged to get married. My point is, when it's your time and the right one shows up, when God brings them, just be ready. Don't sit around stressing over when somebody's going to come, and don't become so cynical that you say, I don't want anybody, when you know that's not really true. Just live life and love God and love yourself, and let God send you the right one. With that said, I love you all, and I think I'm out of here. Let me see something here. Yeah. It's just feel like a Mary J moment for me, I love y'all. Have a good night.
Let's talk. Oh, what a time to speak your mind.